Hello and welcome to We Never Met, the podcast where I have interesting strangers, now virtually, on every single week. If you want to introduce yourself real quick.
Sure. Hi, I'm Amelinda. I was just saying that this is the We Never Met podcast, but even
we've never met in person. Yeah.
And even after this, we've still never met.
Yeah. So it's ongoing. We could do a round 2 when this all blows over and actually meet in person.
Yes.
Yeah. So to give a little like background on yourself, what do you do? Like, how would you define like what you do on a day-to-day basis? Yeah,
I don't know. I try to be creative. I guess technically my job title is content marketing manager at 88.9. I've played music as long as my memory.
Yeah. And is it weird for you? Because as someone who interviews someone a lot, like I don't like to be interviewed because I don't know. I don't like not having the creative control over like where it's going. You know what I mean?
Right. I mean, I was actually curious, like how you got into I really want to ask you questions.
Yeah, we could just have a conversation. We could do whatever. You know, the door is open.
Totally.
But so basically, you grew up in Racine, right?
Yep. So 45 minutes south along the lake.
Yeah. And how was it? Because I have extended family, and my grandparents lived and grew up in Racine, and my dad did too. So how was it different? I mean, it's pretty close to Milwaukee, but it's not in Milwaukee, obviously. So how was it like growing up there? Like, what was the music scene like since you are into music?
I mean, it's lovely. There's a lot of, there's the lakefront.
Right.
I grew up in definitely the very working class area.
Sure.
Right literally across the tracks from Rubberville, which is a weird little neighborhood built around a rubber factory. And I don't know if they were housing their employees as part of like a benefit, but
sure.
That closed down, but a lot of families live there. So, when you're young and you want to hang out, you just cross the tracks. And there's
was it still referred to as Rubberville even back then, even when it was closed?
Yep. I don't think it was ever open while I think it was long gone, but that's just what you called it.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of old industry. I went to the gifted schools, which meant that, my friends
I like how you put air quotes on there.
That no one can see. But that just meant that all of my friends were from radically different income levels.
Sure.
And, so I'm kind of grateful for that. They're the kids that lived on the lake with the pool and, and then my other friends that had like gunshot holes in their apartment.
Yeah, that's a really vastly different upbringing for sure.
But we all had creativity in common, and we went to the schools that really focused on art as being important. And I was taught, maybe this was not a good thing to teach kids, but they taught me that you could be a working artist. So I don't know if it was 6th grade, I think. There was a program that was really cool called Main Gallery, where you're paid by the hour to make art. And then at the end of the program, the art is auctioned off, and that pays for the next year's program.
Oh, that's cool.
But I was just like, I'm an artist, so this is cool. Like,
in 6th grade.
And then I'm like, when I grow up, I'm just going to keep being an artist and, make an hourly wage.
Yeah. Yeah, because
super reality.
That's interesting because like a lot of people I've talked to, they had the opposite, I guess, belief in the school system where it was like nobody told them they could be an artist full time, and then they got out and then they tried it, So you sort of had a backwards where people told you could do it.
Yeah, and then it was a big shock when all of my friends that went to art school that were a little older than me were just working at Whole Foods and had a lot of debt. So,
did that scare you? That
scared me into not going to art school. So,
So what did you decide to do instead?
Oh, marketing, because that made sense. I don't know.
Yeah, which is interesting. So were you playing music throughout this whole period? When did you start?
I forgot that part of your question about the music scene. Yeah. Art and music have always been kind of really tied together for me. But we were lucky. I mean, with Milwaukee being somewhat close, I think my first out of town concert, like going to Milwaukee without parents, was when I was 12. It was Burich Assault.
Oh, I don't know who that is.
They're a girl band, which was, punk band, which was cool for me to see. But after that, there were so many shows at the Y that were just kids playing for other kids.
Wow.
But it was a magical time in music when everything was like new metal and really bad. Like terrible.
Yeah.
But it was kids from other schools. It was, hundreds of kids. And for hours, I have no idea like who would want to do that. Like what adults like wanted to put that together.
Yeah.
And somebody was working the soundboard, And,
yeah.
I bought so many tapes that were like live from the YMCA. That was like every kid band.
I didn't even know that was a thing. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So my joke is calling it no scene, but Racine actually did have a pretty comparatively vibrant music scene, I think, when I, tell people about it, and it sounds like they had a different experience growing up. But
yeah. Do you still have those tapes now of the people at the concerts?
Maybe at my parents' house.
We got to dig those up and listen to them again to see what they're like now.
I got to get a Walkman first.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. A working one for sure. Right. So when you were watching those concerts and stuff, did that sort of give you, because aren't your parents musicians or?
Yeah, I was lucky to grow up. I mean, they were more in like the church setting or just around the house, but sure. Christmas and gather around the piano, and we also had family art night to tie that back.
Wow, really?
So, like, we'd all paint something, or I'm pretty lucky that was just a thing. Like, I painted probably every day. Yeah, it was super normal, and my mom, bless her, I would just thunk out things on the piano and make her transcribe them. So she would actually
this is a hit song, Mom.
She would transcribe sheet music for me.
Wow.
But in those shows, the weird part about it was, I don't know if it was because I never saw another female, but even though it was my friends, I never felt like it was something that I was allowed to do, which is kind of a bummer, because back then, if somebody gave me a guitar and like 2 power chords, I would have just probably have had a totally different experience. But
right.
It took until high school for me to actually play, and that was just because I transferred schools. I went from Catholic school to alternative school, which was a lot more weirdos like me, which was great. But one of them had heard that I was a piano player for some reason, and so they asked me to play synths in a Cure cover band. And that was a great way to make friends. We went bowling after practice, and
that is the quintessential Wisconsin experience. Going bowling after practice. So you talked about it kind of there, but is were those mostly metal bands or like sort of alternative bands that were playing at the Y? Is that what it was?
So it was like grunge, and then quickly turned into new metal, and then just that kind of Wisconsin metalcore thing, the hardcore metalcore. And eventually I learned about shows at like the Shorewood Legion Hall, and and also in Racine, there's like the VFW there too that was having more shows. Yeah,
because I was wondering if that was like, is that a reflection sort of the genre as a whole? Is it pretty dominated by males?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I literally didn't see one female band except for when I went out of town that first time.
So how did you, I feel like if that was me, I would feel really sad, and I'd be like, well, I can't do that. So what made you jump over that hurdle and be like, try to get into the scene and actually do it?
I don't know. I mean, it's weird to try to think about it
retrospectively.
Yeah. Cause I don't remember thinking I wasn't allowed to, but I just didn't feel like I could. So, but I was really, I still felt that community. And I think also I'm vegan now since high school, but back then I didn't know there was a word for it, but I definitely learned through, especially the hardcore scene, learned about veganism. And it was cool that there were other people singing about animal rights, and we're all singing about animal rights together, and human rights. so all of those things were really cool because in my Catholic school upbringing, like I didn't see a lot of that. So in those spaces is where I felt like I found community. So even though I wasn't a part of it as a performer, I felt very like connected to it as a spectator.
Yeah, because is that something that's different than other? I don't know how much experience you have with other sort of music genre communities or just communities in general, but is that what sort of kept you coming back? Is that community feel? Is that why you like? I'm interested to why, because you don't hear too many people going towards the metal. You know what I mean? So why was that sort of the genre that spoke to you, I guess, or that you connected with? Why do you think that was?
Yeah, definitely lyrically and kind of, there's a lot of posturing in metal where, you know, it was cool to like not do drugs, and it was, you know, it was okay to have strong feelings about human rights and animal rights. And you definitely felt like you were part of something. Because I was really into classical music growing up.
Oh, really?
I was playing viola in competitive chamber orchestra.
Wow, that's really different, yeah.
I don't know that I'd feel like community other than going on road trips to different states to competitions, but that was the coolest thing about that was just going to a theme park that was only orchestra nerds.
Oh,
and
yeah,
so there were no lines. But that's like the only feeling of like, this is a cool, like, fun scene. Well, it was not cool at all. Everyone was a dork, but like, including myself.
But it was fun.
But it was fun. But other than that, I guess I don't really know what other experiences are like outside of that.
Yeah, because so the band that you were in, you said it was a Cure cover band. Is that what it was? Was that the first band you were in?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so what were they called, first of all?
We did not have a name. We just, there was some kind of a talent show or something.
It was like a one-off experience?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
But it felt so good. And I also, this is another side track, but since I was 4 or 5, I started tap, jazz, and ballet.
Okay.
And I took that for like 10 or 11 years. So being on stage, like as a performer in that context, I absolutely hated. Even competitive orchestra, absolutely hated. Yeah, I hated dance. I hated playing viola in front of other people. But then, like, for some reason, that band, I felt really good. And I'm just realizing this now.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. That is, like, the first time performing felt good. And I still, like, that is my favorite thing is playing in a band.
Yeah.
And having that feeling of connection.
Yeah, because, I mean, just looking at some of the bands you've been in, is it sort of like a fluid thing where you just sort of, you can come in and out of bands pretty easily in that? Because, I mean, you've been in quite a few, I feel like, over the years.
Yeah, my joke used to be that I always had to have 4 bands because the 4th band is always the one that's like, are we going to break up? I don't know. So,
a safety net just in case.
Right. Yeah. But like if I don't have a band practice at least 3 nights a week, it's a bummer, which is right now.
Yeah.
I'm bummed.
Yeah. Is that what you were doing before, I mean, all this started happening? How many bands are you in currently?
I don't even know. I got there's a doom metal project that I've been working on for a long time, but our singer lives in Detroit, so she started having car problems, and also she was supposed to be going on tour with her other bands, and those all canceled, so everything's kind of, you know, up in the air. Also, right before this, I was having hangs with a couple friends. Luxie, she's a really awesome electronic artist. I started playing with her when she was playing some festivals and wanted like a live band.
Yeah.
But we became good friends, so we started jamming with our friend Wendy Norton, who's a really talented guitar player, and we were just kind of trying out some jams and started to really like do it every week right before it. But now we're sending each other demos, so hoping to keep that going until we can jam in person.
Yeah, so my curiosity is this, because I've never been in a band, if you can believe it or not.
Wow, I can't believe it.
I know, it's crazy. I can't believe no one's picked me up. But so when you are doing that in like the initial stages of like forming a band, or it's like just people like jamming and playing together, how do you like create music out of that? You know what I mean? Like what's the process? Like you guys all just like playing, and you're like, oh, that sounds really cool. You know, like what is the process like?
I guess I never thought what that looks like on the outside. Also, I'm happy to, when we're out of quarantine, I'm happy to show you some power chords.
Yeah, definitely. I actually have a guitar.
Okay.
And electric guitar and a ukulele. So.
And you have that in the house, and there's YouTube. There's so many.
I know. I should learn how to play right now.
Out of quarantine, you're just going to be shredding.
I know.
It's going to be awesome.
Create my own band.
I'm a very collaborative person, so I will play any instrument on anyone else's anything, but I usually work best when someone has like a guitar skeleton.
Sure.
And I feel like most projects I've been in, that's been the situation where it's like, here's just some, bare bones.
Right.
Here's like a melody. I've had a few projects where we just all get in a room and just start jamming.
Yeah.
Not like no shoes jams, but like
yeah. Shoes on jams.
Shoes on jams. No hate. But yeah, so I'm not usually the one that is writing the bare bones skeleton, but that's something I'm hoping to get over. It's like a weird fear I have, and I don't know where it comes from, but I'm hoping to get over that through this quarantine time. Yeah.
Is it because it's easier to be sort of someone that collaborates rather than like, I guess if you start a song and it's like not good, then it's like my fault. It's like your responsibility. You're like, oh well, okay, everyone's looking at me and it didn't turn out. What instruments do you mostly play? Like what's your main instruments?
Lately it's been bass, but that was my least knowledgeable instrument when I started it. But my friend Erin Dorbin, she's a really great songwriter, and her project is called Winter Bear. And she was talking about going on tour, and I was envious, and I'm like, man, I wish I was going on tour. And she said, well, I was thinking it'd be cool to have bass, because she didn't have bass on her home recordings. So yeah, she took a chance on me. I went to the guitar store and bought the cheapest bass out of plywood, and had 2 weeks to write bass lines to 12 songs.
Wow.
I don't know. I figured that out, which is the most basic things probably possible, and then went on tour. So that's how I started.
That's intense. That's a tight timeline, I feel like, to just pick up a new instrument and try to figure out how to tour with it.
But I'd been playing guitar poorly before that.
So bass was the natural next step.
And actually, I did, thinking back, Night Animals was a band that I played guitar and sang, and that came out of the band lottery, All Messed Up, which is really cool. Which you should join that. That would be a great way. Because the two of my bandmates were teenagers that never played music before.
Oh, okay.
And we became this band, and we stayed a band until we went through 6 drummers and couldn't find one that would stay with us.
Wow.
So I think at that point something was wrong with us, but
we had to look in the mirror a little bit on that band. Yeah, maybe I should. I'll learn drums.
I did write songs in that band, come to think of it. The other guitarist, she wrote a lot of songs too, but
yeah, because I was going to ask you, what is the first song? Was that the first song you wrote? Can you at least remember writing in that band?
I mean, in that band. I mean, like when I was a kid, I wrote and sang songs on the piano and transcribed them and recorded them on tape.
Wow. Do you still have those?
I really hope not, but I was entering songwriting contests at 7, and maybe that's what ruined me. Maybe it was because I never won any awards.
But they don't appreciate true talent. I know.
I was like, I'm terrible. No one must hear these songs.
So what was the vibe of those songs? Do you even remember? Like what sort of?
Probably C major, like no black keys, just as simplistic. I was rocking a lot of Beethoven and Bach at the time.
Wow.
So Mozart, so probably just very like, as generic as possible.
That's still really impressive though at that age. I feel like it is. I can't believe you didn't win just from like being that young and being able to write songs is pretty impressive to me. You also got to tour Japan with one of your bands, right?
Yeah, that was
How did that experience or like how did that even come about? Do they have a big scene for metal and like sort of punk over in Japan?
So yeah, we're like a hardcore punk, but like in the 80s kind of hardcore way, I would say.
Okay.
That band's Detention.
Yeah.
That came from a really awesome label, Snuffy Smiles in Japan. Yoichi Omori runs that. For some reason, he has a deep love of River West basement bands. And
how did he find about like River West?
I have no idea, but for years, there's been a tour circuit of bands coming out of River West basements and going into like DIY venues in Japan.
That's so specific, like such a specific place to pull bands from.
Mainly, Holy Shit and Tenement both did those tours with Yoichi, and members of Tenement and Holy Shit were in Detention, so that's how we were able to get our music to him, and he put out, and I love this, but he put out a tape which was one side Detention, the other side Rio Turbo.
Ooh.
Which is not a punk band. Well, a punk in their own way, but I don't know if you're familiar with. They're like a really fun dance band. I'm
gonna have to start writing these down to like, look them up later.
So Joey Turbo, he's also in Platinum Boys.
Okay.
Some lip syncing, some live vocal, dance party. Kelsey Kaufman from Cactus Club, she's like the DJ.
Whoa, really?
And it's and then they have dancers are also very much a part of their show. So
that sounds a lot of fun.
They ended up touring with us in Japan.
Oh, cool.
And that was amazing because they were dancing and wearing like a mix of like 90s rave outfits with like sex shop lingerie outfits.
Wow. Yeah, so what's like the vibe? How many people are turning out to these shows in Japan when
I mean the biggest was like 150 or 200.
That's a lot of people.
But mostly not. I mean mostly like 30. I don't know. It's hard to say cuz the venues were so small like It would be like a cafe where they move the tables.
I gotcha.
And after hours, no stage. I mean, it was like doing a DIY tour in the States. But.
Yeah, but were you in Japan before that? Like, had you ever been there?
Never.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
All I knew was stories that I'd hear from my other bandmates that'd been touring there.
Yeah, I took Japanese actually in middle school and in high school. Yeah, it's a really cool country. I wish we had a trip to go there in high school we could have gone on, but it's like, I don't have $4,000 in high school to go on this trip. So
how many shifts at the grocery store can you or whatever?
I know. How many carts can I push in the rain to make this money? So yeah, we had the opportunity. I still really want to go. It's supposed to be really cool. So where'd you stop?
Go to All Messed Up. Go to All Messed Up and like get your band going.
Get my band together.
Make sure there's some River West people in it.
I know. Yeah, I need to like relocate to River West, start a band. I got a huge checklist.
This is gonna be great.
How many stops did you make? Like, where did you go to? A lot of different places in Japan.
We had 11 or 12 shows.
That's a good amount
in 2 weeks, and we only had 2 in Tokyo, so we actually got to see a lot of the countryside, which was so beautiful.
Yeah.
And
it is crazy the contrast in like geography from like the big cities to like they get snow there, which people don't even realize or think about.
Yeah, the mountains were beautiful. I mean, it looked more like what I've never been to Hawaii, but it looked more like how I envisioned Hawaii to look like.
Yeah.
Just kind of ocean and mountains.
Yeah.
So the drives were beautiful, but because something about, as it was like a DIY tour and everybody's broke, we were trying to be as thrifty as possible. So if you took the highway during the day, it's like $40 or something, but it's half the price if you travel at night. So we would play our shows, hang out for a little while, and then drive through the night to the next.
Do they have tolls or something? Is that what
Yeah, really expensive tolls. And so we would take like the back roads, and it would be like 8 hours to the next city, but somehow, like, the van that we were in, which I loved, but it was like pitched forward, like just so.
You're constantly leaning.
There was no headrest. So, like,
oh man!
Like, there was like sleep just wasn't really possible. So we just got more and more delirious. We started developing, and both bands and driver, and Yoichi, the tour manager, were all in the same van.
Oh, wow.
But there weren't enough seats for everyone, so somebody had to sit in the back, which was just like...
Oh, just getting
bouncy.
sick. Yeah.
But also, if you were like so tired of not stretching your legs, it was worth it to be that person.
Was it like this? Was it like a station wagon setup where there's like a seat in the back facing the window?
No, you just had to pile up everyone's luggage.
That was your seat.
That was your seat. Yeah.
So. How long in total were you actually in Japan?
2 weeks.
2 weeks. Yeah, that's really cool. I mean, that's a really cool experience in general, even if you're doing it. But $40 seems insane for a toll.
Something like that. Yeah.
Wow, that's intense. So, yeah, what years were those where you were in Japan actually, or year I should say?
I think it was spring of 2018. Gosh, time is going so fast.
That wasn't too long ago, though.
Yeah, so it was like now. Yeah, like it was like late March, early April.
Okay.
I think. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a lot of, when I was reading about you, that you reference Norwegian black metal a lot. Mid 90s, I should specify. First of all, what is Norwegian black metal?
That's so funny. Also, I think it's weird that there's things you can read about me on the internet, but
there's actually a lot of things if you really search.
Oh man, now there's going to be this.
I know. One more thing. I'll put it under another name.
I think what was so special about that time was, I was 14 and in Catholic school, and I just felt like an outsider. You're becoming yourself, and I watched like my friends kind of turning into like people that I didn't want to be, and the typical high school thing. But one really fun thing was going with my older friends that could drive and going to the metal shop inside Exclusive Company. And there was like a bargain bin, and one of the CDs in there had a matchstick in the jewel case. Oh. Like it was like a clear CD with a clear jewel case and a matchstick, and it was called Firestarter, and it was a compilation of like mid to late 90s Norwegian black metal from the Century Black label. Okay. And I just got so obsessed with it. I read somewhere that your brain as an adult can't experience the same feelings of listening to music as you did then, as a teenager. Like it just fires all these things in your brain. I don't know, but I remember since I was already an audiophile nerd as a kid, I had for my birthday, I wanted really good headphones. So I had I just remember laying on my bedroom floor and listening to this compilation and just weeping because I had never heard anything so beautiful as Oliver's Madrigal album, which was the first time I'd heard Norwegian chord progressions.
And how are those different?
I mean, it's just a different scale, but I loved it so much that I actually got into Norwegian folk music.
Oh, really? You really went down the Norwegian pipeline.
I just and I think part of it too was that I didn't know anyone else that listened to it, so it felt like it was my own private special thing. And also at the time, the bands that I was listening to, eventually I would like mail order their full albums. So the compilation worked, you know.
Yeah, it really got you hooked.
But they would come with English translations inside, and most of those bands that I was listening to at the time were very like super hippies. You know, it was about like gods and goddesses and nature, and the Oliver record was 8 hymns to the wolf and man, like you know, being aware of your shadow side and all this, and my notebooks, like when my mom gave me a bag of random stuff for my bedroom, which did not have the Live at the YMCA tapes in it, but
bummer.
But I had sketchbooks where I would like illustrate all the lyrics.
Oh, wow.
Because, you know, when you're a kid, you just get really obsessed with certain bands.
Yeah.
And so I was going to say, I had friends that were older, and I was trying to remember why I had college friends when I was like 15, but they were kids that I met at those shows at the Y. Okay. But there were some kids that had a black metal radio show at UW Parkside, which is the college closest to Racine. And so they had like unlimited guest list pretty much to all these shows. So I started, you know, they would drive me to the, you know, Eagles Ballroom and the Rave and stuff, and get to see some of these bands. And, you know, I would be literally the only female there, which was another weird thing at the time. Yeah. But, you know, it was pretty amazing. And then I was like, also had VHS tapes of their music videos that were you know, being in Norway and Sweden. And
has that changed at all? The culture, like, are there more females in the crowds now and into this sort of music?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. At least from what you noticed.
Yeah, I don't know why at the time. I mean, there were definitely a few, but I remember being handed like Hellhammer from Mayhem handed me his drumstick, and like I think the guitarist from Emperor gave me his pick too. I think that's who it was. But like, you know, they would just like hand it to me, and I don't know if it was because I was like this teenager, like this teenage kid, like in my Mayhem hoodie that was like an XL when I was like 90 pounds or something.
Yeah. You talked a lot about going to like sort of Catholic school. Did you enjoy that experience? Or did you feel like you were out of place there and like you didn't want to do it?
Like, so yeah, it's weird because I started in Catholic school and then I transferred to the gifted programs that I was talking about, and those were amazing and I loved those parts of my life. But then it was like, okay, you have to go to Catholic high school. So I kind of like, so that made it even worse when I went back. I like really struggled socially because I was used to being encouraged to be creative, and like that being creative was important, you know? Then I ended up back in Catholic school, but the struggle there was that you were able to test into your classes. Or test out of classes. So I tested out of, so I didn't have to take like freshman and sophomore classes, and I could start taking junior classes right away. And then you can start getting college credits. But when I ended up transferring to alternative school, like that wasn't a thing. So I had to take freshman and sophomore classes like on my own. So that was kind of a struggle. Yeah. So I had to like keep taking my normal classes and then take like, you know, turn in chapter reviews for like history and whatever. Like,
yeah. So from there, when did you come to Milwaukee? When did you move to Milwaukee? Was it for college?
No, I actually was going to Parkside at first. And yeah, I took philosophy because that was a really cool idea. Yeah. I don't know. You know, when you start out, you have no idea what you're doing, probably. General classes. And then at one point I had a friend who was like, hey, I want to move to Milwaukee. Like, I'll pay for your first month's rent
Take that deal.
Or something like if you want to be my roommate. And actually at the time I spent most of my time in Chicago because I was, halfway between the two. And I was really, the all ages scene in Chicago was really cool. There's the Fireside Bowl and Bottom Lounge. And I actually was spending most of my time going to shows down there. And I was looking at jobs in Chicago and and I had friends in a punk band that wanted me to move in because their drummer moved out. Oh, okay. I could have been the drummer out of it.
Darn
it. But yeah, when I kind of realized that how little, like, that they were making like minimum wage and working 60 hours a week to live 6 people to like a 3-bedroom apartment or something, it wasn't quite as alluring as it seemed at first. And so I hadn't actually spent that much time in Milwaukee, so I didn't really know a lot of people other than like the Shorewood Legion Hall.
Yeah. And like, how did you start building up did you just start going to shows here? Is that like what took up most of your time when you moved to Milwaukee?
Yeah, I ended up in River West, which, is a pretty artistic part of town. But I met Andy Parman, he runs X-Ray Arcade now.
Oh, sure.
And he's a lifer because he was booking shows. He was booking shows then, and he had an apartment that was above what's now the Jazz Gallery on Center Street.
Sure.
And every time anyone moved out that like didn't want it, that like left a mattress or something, he would put it in his attic. So when bands would come through, they could stay. Everyone would have a bed. So I kind of learned about booking shows through him, and that, was my, the first thing out the gate was DIY shows. So
wow. And like, so with music, was that still in the forefront of your mind? Like, were you still playing in bands and like that's what you wanted to do for like a full time is music when you were in Milwaukee, even starting out?
I wasn't playing music. I think I was more at that time just excited about helping promote shows and that way.
When did you start getting into bands here? Yeah,
I think it was Group of the Altos.
Okay.
I think was the first band that I started doing here, and that was just because they had heard that I played viola.
Oh, really?
And and it was just like acquaintances. I didn't know any of them very well. But we were like a 12-piece. I think we were 9-piece when I joined. I can't remember what
That's
number.
That's like an orchestra.
Yeah, we were a very weird like orchestra. So I was playing viola. We had a horn section. Mary Allschwing played violin, and we had stand-up bass. So members of Hello Death were all in altos. So it was it was so many people, and it sort of turned into all these different projects because there are so many songwriters in that band.
Yeah. Was it tough on stage with like 9 to 12 people?
Well, it grew to like, I think we toured with 14 people to South by Southwest.
Yeah, that's a ton of people. You got to put someone on your shoulders when you're playing or something.
Actually, at South by, the horn players stood on top of the amps.
There just wasn't room.
Guitar players.
You got to stand over there.
Eventually, we built. We have some carpenters in the band, conveniently, so they built extra stage components for a stage for Cactus Club, and we just kept our extra Cactus Club stage there, which I think has been reused into their like merch stand. I think is made out of our old stage. I don't remember, but so we just
you had like risers or something.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, that is a lot of people though. So what bands you sort of alluding to right now, and obviously things are different right now in the current climate, but what bands are you making music with right now? Like what are you doing currently?
This new band tentatively named possibly Panic Bath.
Okay. But could change.
Could change.
Yeah.
That's with Luxie on drums and Wendy on guitar. Also, Luxie is just she's one of my favorite local artists. So she's just constantly all day making video games, making albums. she's also very patient and very knowledgeable with Ableton.
Okay.
So we just started before this, when you could still, be in a room.
Yeah, meet people and see people in real life.
We've been working on trying to make some rap beats.
Cool.
Production that way. So that was super fun. So I'm hoping we can do that again. Where I was just using the MIDI controller and telling her what sounds I wanted, and she was patient enough to
give me the sound.
Yeah, I'm like, I want a sound that's like this, and she went. Yeah. And I actually have been starting to do that with a few other musicians. So really, I should just be learning Ableton. So I'm not this big.
You don't
of an
have
asshole.
a middleman. Yeah.
But obviously they are also. The people I work with are also artists, so, We're definitely contributing. There's an artist in Dallas, Teddy Waggy. She is a phenomenal, she's an all-encompassing artist. She has a band called Midnight Opera, and
cool.
they're in Dallas, and I met them through a connection from South by Southwest years and years ago when I was on tour with a group of the Altos, but stayed in touch and have played a lot of shows with them when they're on tour, but she creates the costumes and makeup style for every tour. She creates characters every time she tours, so she's just this amazing performative artist, but she's also learning to be a producer and engineer, so she's also very good at Ableton. And she invited me to Dallas for a sort of a residency. I went down there for, I think it was 10 days, maybe a little less. But yeah, I slept at her house. Every day we woke up, went to her home studio, and tried to just crank out as much. That's all we did all day. Yeah. Is make music. And I started to get over my fears. It took me a little while to get going with songwriting, being a part of that initial process.
Yeah. I mean, it's a very vulnerable state. You're basically like, I think this is a good idea, and I think we should write this, especially if you're with one other person that can be like, nah.
And she's so talented. But what she kind of taught me was to just plunk out things on the MIDI controller, because you can always change. The thing about MIDI is you can always change the patch. So whatever sequence of sounds you play, you can turn that into a string arrangement, or you can make it a funky, crunchy synth, or so it's hard with Ableton. There's options where anything you play on the MIDI keyboard can be turned into thousands of sounds. So, you're like, well, what's the perfect, weird sampled orchestra or something? You could spend all day doing that. So instead we just, she showed me how you can just compose things and put them together and just have rough sketches and then go back later.
Yeah. So is that stuff do you have a home studio or a place where you create?
I mean, right now we're
this is it.
We're using it, but I'm slowly getting into it. Ableton is kind of pricey, so I haven't made the jump yet, but I might try the light version. I still plan to work remotely with Teddy on the songs that we started in Dallas. There's a New York artist, French Horn Rebellion. They used to live here. Robert from that band. We also had a day with the MIDI controller and tried to make some disco. So
nice.
It was really fun, and he had some fun interfaces, and it was really, really easy working with him. Again, telling him what sounds I wanted, and playing YouTube clips and being like, I want the synth bass from this, I want the guitar from this. And he graciously helped me with that. So I do plan to finish that song with him, and maybe work with him on the songs with Teddy as well. Yeah.
Do you like working pretty much exclusively with collaborating? Do you ever consider doing stuff solo, just by yourself, just seeing what you come up with?
I mean, it would be convenient because, like I said earlier, I love playing shows, and it would be convenient if I could say yes to every show offer and just do it myself. I don't know, with my beat machine and guitar. I don't know, but I'm definitely not the singer songwriter acoustic guitar lady. That's not me. So, but yeah, hopefully during quarantine, now that I set up all my interfaces for this podcast, so I
now
might
you have
as
to
well.
go.
All I have to do is plug my guitars in. Yeah. I've been taking guitar and bass lessons virtually. You know.
Oh, cool.
I have practice amps around my house for guitar and bass.
You're all set up and ready to go.
There's nothing stopping me. Yeah.
Now you
nothing
can't
stopping
not
me
do
but
it.
myself.
Yeah, and we didn't really mention this much, but you also work at 88.9. And so how? I mean, I would assume you're very excited when you got that because it like literally puts together your love of music into something that, you know, is concrete 9 to 5 where you can make money doing it.
Yeah, I remember I had one moment driving past the studio and going like, well, I think I'm going to work there, but it's literally because I mean, I had applied for a job at Summerfest around the same time. But,
sure.
But really, there's not a lot of music business. I used to promote shows with Battle Cry, which was mainly Brandon Malakara and Aaron Wolf, and Aaron Wolf is the music director at WMSE. And
okay, yeah.
I love WMSE a lot. I still donate to them every month, and
yeah, as you should, as everyone should.
Hope they're doing well through this too. It's tough times when you're community funded radio, but for all of us. But it's a good family. I'm learning that even more so now. We're trying to keep people connected, wherever they are, and we're doing like dance party times, and we're starting to do a 9 a.m. weekday, like gather your kids around the radio, and we'll teach them about David Bowie and teach them about Prince, and we're doing we're doing like educational hour.
Yeah, that's cool though.
Trying to connect people.
Yeah.
During this time, so I'm really grateful that is still part of. We're very mission driven. And,
sure.
And I love being able to interview artists and be connected.
Yeah. Is there any? Do you ever interview artists that you don't really know their music? And
those are always the best interviews. I don't know if you've had that experience yourself. But.
Yeah, I know I have, and because you just come in basically with no bias and a blank slate, But yes, because there are times, when you interview someone and they're so nice and like they're like, I gotta go listen to their stuff,
right?
I feel like I'm obliged to now. But yeah, I
think I had that experience with Dermot Kennedy. He's an Irish singer. It was such a great conversation that I was like, maybe I should I
gotta go support him somehow.
But I interviewed the singer of the Black Keys.
That's cool.
He was interesting.
Yeah,
I was more interested in his studio setup and the way that he runs. But it's things that are like I don't, bands that I don't listen to. It's more exciting to hear about their process. Right.
Well, has there what interview besides those two, I guess, has been the most memorable for you, either positive or negatively?
I really love the band Bleached. They're sisters.
Okay.
In LA. That was really fun. I was talking to both of them, but they were on tour and they were just kind of passing the phone.
Okay. Yeah.
But that was a weird one because I was kind of a fan, and I did the thing that like you really shouldn't do, where I'm like, I feel like this lyric was about that, which I couldn't help myself, but
it's hard not to.
But they were like, yes, you're exactly right. I changed it to he because it was about myself or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah,
but
you're like, nailed it.
Yeah, I'm like, yes, I got it.
Totally got you. It is interesting the people that you can get though. Like even when I did college radio,
nice.
For all my tenure in college.
You have a good radio voice.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I was on Kiss FM for a couple of years too after college here. But in college, it's amazing the people that you can get to do interviews. Like,
totally.
I interviewed G Love. In college. Like, I'm like, how did I even get you on the phone? This is a college radio show. Like, there's 100 listeners here.
Did you get the recipe for the secret sauce?
No, I didn't. I could, talking about like interviewing someone on the phone, I could barely hear him because he was on tour on a phone. Then this was like probably 2010 or something. So the technology just wasn't there to.
And then you get the dropped calls, like, oh, we're in the mountains, and then you call them 3 times, and you're still trying to have a conversation.
Okay, so where do we leave off in this conversation?
Right.
Where did it drop? But yeah, so that was really interesting. It's just amazing, the people, I don't know if it's still like that now, but that you can get just by reaching out and being like, hey, do you want to talk?
I mean, college radio really is like the backbone of like support for artists, I think.
Yeah.
So how did you get into being interested in hearing people's stories? Because you've been interviewing people for a long time. So.
Yeah. I think I'm just, people just fascinate me. I always would walk down the street and just look at people and I'm like, I wonder what they do. Like I wonder what they do on a daily basis. Like I wonder what they're thinking. And I just always had this curiosity about people. I just think everyone's so interesting to me because everyone's story is so different and their experiences are so different. And I just learn a lot, like just from talking to people and hearing what they have to say. So
what brought you into wanting to know about people that you've never met?
I think when I started the podcast that a lot of people didn't want to talk to each other. And a lot of people have these very, just, polarizing opinions of just other people without even knowing who they are.
Yeah. Otherness. Yeah.
Yeah. It's
that's
like,
interesting.
Yeah. So you believe this. So then therefore you are this. This is your whole person.
And you're not part of my world. So,
I don't want to talk to you at all. So it came during that time where I felt like it was important to just show, at least in a little way, even that you can disagree or not have the same values or I guess thought processes as other people, but still have a conversation and be civil and get something out of it. There's a lot of people that I've talked to that I don't necessarily believe in what they believe, but we can still sit down for an hour and talk and and that's fine. And I still respect them and think they're good people. And, but yeah, I think that's an important thing to know. Yeah.
How did you get your first interview since you weren't from a radio station or like anything? Hi, I'm a person with a microphone.
And I don't know you. And come over to my house.
Oh man.
That was the real problem I had at the beginning because that's the biggest thing. I'm like, how am I going to get someone if I have no samples to show of this podcast? And they don't know.
Like, I have a podcast because no one does, right? Like,
yeah, I have a podcast, so come on over, And so I was really nervous about the first like 4 or 5 people because I'm like, I can't show them anything, I can't be like, this is what an episode sounds like, or these people have done it. Now it's a lot easier because I can just show them a website with a bunch of episodes on it. But
I got a referral a long time ago now, I guess.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
But so I was like, I just asked my coworker who sits next to me.
Yeah.
Justin Barney. And I was like, I got this email. Is this legit? Because at least I could have that,
Right. Yeah. So Barb was the first person I had on. She is she does the mismatched up clothing. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Yeah.
But she was kind enough to come on and do it. And so that was helpful. The first like 4 or 5 people, thank you so much for doing this, because without you I would never have been able to start. So
has it changed much since I haven't listened to your whole oeuvre, but
yeah I mean, there's a lot. There's like 61 episodes out now, so but no, it hasn't changed too much. I met some really luckily some really cool people that I'm still friends with from it, so it's been cool. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah. But
hope we meet someday and be friends again.
Yeah, we'll have to do a part 2 where we can actually meet in person. But no, thank you for taking the time and doing this. I appreciate it. So is there like for the new music that's coming out and all that, is there a specific hub that you have, like a website or anything that showcases all that stuff?
I love like helping other people do all of this stuff, but I had a website and then didn't keep it up.
What was on it originally? Just
literally nothing. That was when I was looking for a job, and sure. I was doing like freelance music PR, which nobody has money here, so really I was just giving people tools and resources for free, but
yeah.
But when I was part of a booking collective, you know, it made sense for us to write press releases. So I learned that if you wrote a press release well and had a high-res image, then literally every free paper and online blog will publish your show, you know?
Yeah.
So kids at home, you know, write a press release. Nobody knows about your album release show unless you tell them.
That's good advice. So not at the moment, no. Not right now. You
not at the moment. Yeah, to answer your actual question, since I'm being a really bad interviewee.
Not at all.
Yeah, I just have, you know, if a band keeps going long enough, we eventually have like an Instagram or a Facebook page. You know, I have
about it eventually.
I have a lot of half-used Facebook pages.
Oh, do you?
You know, that are like, is this band still a band? I don't know. Yeah.
We could be. Let's save it.
We could come back, yeah.
Yeah. When are you on 88.9 Radio Milwaukee? Do you have like a set time that you're on, or do you just do interviews with artists and things like that?
Yeah, I'm mainly just on radiomilwaukee.org, or you can just randomly hear my voice saying like 88.9 Radio Milwaukee, but that's about it.
There you go.
I don't have a show right now. I do jump in other people's shows occasionally.
How does it work with people on air? Are they still going in there? Or?
There are some amazing blanket forts and home studio setups.
That's pretty incredible. That's pretty cool.
Jordan is in his basement.
Really? And just sending the...
They're able to remote access.
Wow, technology.
Yeah.
Wow,
so
crazy.
We're keeping it safe.
That's cool.
If we have to, everybody has their own pop guard and, you know.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible.
Doing what we can to
keep it like that remotely. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, we got to keep connecting to the people.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm assuming we're at the end of this, and this is the part where I'm like, yes, find all my work here, but
you can find it anywhere.
Or nowhere.
Yeah, just Google your name and then stuff will come up.
Oh, God. That's probably how you found out all these things. Oh, man.
That is, yeah. We didn't even talk about the mayor of Milwaukee that you wanted to high five. There's so much more stuff that you have said, you know. But yeah, I appreciate you coming on and doing this virtually. It's been a lot of fun. Thank you so much. It's great to virtually meet you. Yeah, as I am in isolation. Me as well. And stay safe and work on those beats and that new music in your studio. And now you're making me realize that I need to take my own advice about, you know, being able to promote your work. Yeah. Somewhere, because I have no promotion for anyone. Now you got plenty of time to work on that stuff now. in this time. I hope to paint a lot too. It's going to be great. Yeah. Well, thanks again. I appreciate it, and stay safe out there or in there. Hope anyone who's actually listening to this point, thank you, and I hope you're all well and healthy. Yeah. Stay well. Stay inside, and stay inside. Flatten the curve.